We are. We are now.
All right. Well, we are here for another recap, guys.
Yes.
Exodus 14 and 15. Really the Exodus, the parting of the Red Sea, all the fun things. So, I want to start by making this comment, and I don't know if you have this picture, Chad, available, but you created some AI generated slides for the presentation, not the presentation, for your presentation, but for your slides on. I said that to say there was one that really caught my eye. It was the Hebrew people, the Israelites, walking through the Red Sea, and in Scripture we read that the land was dry. They walked on dry land, and I was fascinated because the AI generated picture could not comprehend that.
Yeah.
There was water underneath their feet. Yep. And so I said to Chad, Jeremy I think it was Monday, I was like, AI isn't even smart enough to create a picture like that. God is so amazing that AI couldn't figure it out. And I just put that in notes. I was like, AI is not that good.
Right.
To think God created that and made that happen, and they walked on dry land. So, anyways, that's kind of like my first comment. But you guys can piggyback off of that and take us on this journey.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I watched the sermon. Obviously, I wasn't here Sunday, but I did watch it live. And love this story. Love this account. Love what's happening. I think it is so important. And I've been wrestling with something since the sermon. I'm questioning, does God actually test our faith? And so here we have God's doing something. And Exodus 14:1, he tells them, turn back. Go back and go to this spot where I'm going to put you, and I'm going to do something awesome. So God has this whole plan. Pharaoh, he says, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh's going to come after you. And so God knows what he's doing. And again, at 14:1, he tells them, turn back, go to this specific place. Then he hardens Pharaoh's heart. Then he says, I'm going to deal with Pharaoh. And in verse 18, he says, so that everyone will know, so the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh. Yeah. And so he's still doubling down on this idea of who am I, and he is working. So back to my thought of, did God intend to test their faith? And I really started to think, a lot of times we think that God is testing our faith, and that's putting me as the hero of the story again. Mm-hmm. God wasn't testing their faith. God was getting ready to deliver them from Pharaoh. And my favorite part is verse 30, when he says, I have broken the power of the Egyptians. Behold the power of the Egyptians. And that doesn't just mean the chariots. That means I've delivered you from slavery, bondage, lack of identity, no religion, no structure, all of these things. And in one statement, he says, yeah, I wiped them out, but I didn't just remove the immediate threat. I broke you free, and that to me is the true deliverance, which is what God wanted to do the whole time. So I began to wonder, how many times do we focus on the situation and put myself in it and go, oh, God's testing my faith. God knew exactly what he was doing, and it wasn't to test their faith, it was to deliver them. Yeah. But when we focus on ourselves and the situation, we start to see things that may not be there. I'm not saying I'm not saying God never, lets our faith be tested, but he was doing something very specific to show that he is Yahweh. Yeah. And I love that. I think that's fantastic, and that really has spoken to me actually every day since. I'm like just still rolling with that and studying that out in other places, and it appears in the New Testament too. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
So
I think a couple things I've been there's just so much in the hard part about doing a section like we're doing on Sunday mornings is there's so many things we can't talk about, right? That we just don't have the time to talk about. One of the things that I was thinking through was if you were to look at a map, and I should have had an overlay map ready to go to, the route, if the goal is to get them to the promised land, they're going the wrong direction.
Yep.
that God does not lead them out like to an immediate promised land scenario. And I'm just thinking for us is, often my desires and prayers are, God, deliver me like this.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much about the beginning of the Exodus. Even it's not so much about them getting to a destination, but instead about who they're going to become.
Yeah.
And that immediately upon the Exodus from what we would call Egypt, technically still in Egypt, technically correct to say that this whole formation piece that you're just talking about, God has to begin a process of transforming them. I had a couple of things here, a reminder of when we started this. We said God's going to deliver them from something to something. And it seems on the generic that the deliver from would be Egypt and the to would be to the promised land, because that's what he said he would do. But he's really doing something more than that.
Yeah.
He's changing the internal landscape of them before he's going to change the external landscape of them. So
he's taking them from slaves to his people.
Yeah.
From being owned to being owned by him.
Yeah.
From being hopeless to having hope. And that's the message of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
About. We just have to be faithful. I love Exodus 14:1. He actually says, turn back.
Yeah.
Go backwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, no. The promised land's this way. Why would we turn backward? Why would we go back toward what we just delivered from? Because God knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And literally, our job is just to walk. It's just to trust God and walk.
Yeah.
And if he says go this way, cool, I go this way. So.
And think about this. If they didn't do what God said there, turn back, Pharaoh would have mauled them, mowed them over.
Yep.
I just find that fascinating.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, the thing that they wanted to get away from, they needed to go back toward so that God could deliver them from the thing that they feared the most.
So the detours in life, where we feel slowed down or haven't we been here, like that's intentional.
Yeah.
That's God's formation.
Yep.
I was thinking also about a little bit later here in 14, the emotional slavery of the Hebrews. They have been physically delivered, but emotionally they're still slaves. And I've just been processing all week long about how long it takes to holistically, spiritually, psychologically, physically break free from those things that have taken us captive at different points in life. And again, we so often think of, man, let's just be delivered in a moment. And I heard somebody this week talking about Alcoholics Anonymous again as an example of the perfect kind of genuine transformation story. It is a lifelong journey together with a group who are headed towards the same destination, different internal makeups, different challenges and struggles, yet the reality is they know they need the support of others as they're making this lifelong transformation from dependence on something. And of course, we won't go into all of it, but there's a lot of great Christian principle as it started as a Christian thing.
I think for my household personally, one of the things that really spoke to us is all we have to do is walk. So many times when we feel surrounded, it's easy to just not want to move. And then, and you guys already touched on this, the idea that God doesn't just give us a map and there's the destination. He is our path. And so for me, I was like, dang, there's so many things in life that I just like, oh God, I'm just going to sit here and wait. And he says, get up. I am the path. You have to take a step. And man, Kaylee and I were talking about that on the way home, and we were just like, wow, there's a lot of times in life where things just get us down. And God says, just walk, just walk. I'm with you, and I you know those things, but then to just hear it and just be reaffirmed that, like, yeah, we gotta get up and we gotta walk, and we're not on this journey alone. So, man, all of this whole Exodus series has been hitting home, but Sunday it was just it was more personal for our family, and so I just share that just to say that, like, this is hitting everybody a little bit differently, and at a personal level. And like Chad, you just shared that, it takes time to heal from those physical, emotional, spiritual trauma. But we live in a culture that likes to use the word trauma to heal from that. But God says, just walk.
Yeah.
Just walk. I'm with you. I don't know. I just think that's really neat and encouraging for us as Christians.
That is. It's good to hear. I think as we're shaping this, that it's touching people in a contemporary, applicable way, not just wow, we're telling a good story from a long time ago. Because I mean, we live with this belief that the gospel is found in all of Scripture. All of Scripture is gospel. It's an unfolding of God's revelation in every way. And so, thank you for the affirmation. But then, what I would add to that is, I mean, I think we all are on a journey, and that's the thing. We just can't. We got to keep moving.
Yeah.
But what I'm encouraged by is in that again that Exodus 14:14. So here's what you have to do: stand, still yourself. Some translations say quiet yourself. I'm not a real big fan of the quiet yourself one. However, and know that the Lord is going to fight for you.
Yeah.
For me, that, and I wish maybe I would have even zoned in on that more, because for me, that has been a big personal takeaway is, man, how many times do we have to fight the battle ourselves?
Yeah.
And God is genuinely going behind us and giving us a safe place to go back to that emotional healing piece that we just talked about. I really do believe this God gives a sacred place to heal. And sometimes to truly heal, we need protection from what's behind us, but we also need to be still where we are without rushing forward. And man, that's good theology, and it's good psychology. It really is. And so the stillness is the hard part.
So one of the things that has really been I've been dealing with, and I keep seeing this, is stand firm, but don't fear.
Yeah.
And I'm reading my devotions this morning, 1 John, and it says, perfect love casts out all fear, because fear has to deal with punishment. And I went immediately back to this, and I thought, here they are. They're fearing punishment.
Yeah.
They're fearing Pharaoh is going to slaughter them. And they don't even understand that God is doing this to deal with that problem. So we are so either paralyzed by fear or immobilized or become apathetic because of the what ifs. And so for me, this idea of stand and be quiet involves that be anxious for nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have to fear, because God brought me here. God told me to stand here. And God knows exactly what He's doing. But man, so often I get thinking like, oh, but what if, and I start to rationalize things, and God says, no, just let me do what I do, and you just either walk or stand or be, and be still. Yeah. And to me, that means don't have fear, don't stand there terrified of what might happen. Whatever happens, God's in control. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm good either way. If He lets Pharaoh come and slaughter us, okay, He has a reason. If He slaughters Pharaoh, okay, He has a reason. Yeah. And so to me, it's the fear. I don't know. It's just been, it keeps coming up as I read the New Testament and things. Put away the fear. Don't. And it comes down to what I said a minute ago. It's I focus on me. Mm-hmm. Do I really trust God? Do I trust that God has the best plan for me?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest. A lot of times, I think my plan is good. Mm-hmm. Actually, I like my plan because I'm comfortable with it. I'm in control of it. Yeah. And so God says, stand quietly, just let me do what I've already ordained to do, and then just watch.
Yeah.
So
That's so good. While you're talking, I had a thought, and I'm gonna chase it down here with y'all. It may not go anywhere because it's right in this moment. But I was just thinking of the Hebrews life story to this point, that this generation, the generations that are gathered there, they haven't known life outside of Egypt. They just watched God do 10 miracles. They watched God's hand in Passover, and they were actively involved, so they have some ownership in it. It's like, this is really hard. He's saying, don't be afraid. Remember.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Because the week before, we talked about remember.
Yeah.
Remember. And I'm just thinking, here they are. This is our memories, right? This is our the way we work is, I kind of remember, but man, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
How quickly we forget the power of God. And so he, again, is going to show them. But then I was thinking to myself, man, how mad must have God been that they didn't remember? And then I'm like, no. I think about being a father. I think about when my kids are, I won't say I don't get frustrated. I look at them at their level of maturity based on where they are, and I recognize, well, yeah, they're not acting like an adult because they're not an adult. They do things, and it's part of them learning to trust the why behind things. And so I was thinking, you know what? Today I'm thinking about listening, and I'm like, God's not angry at them. That's why he's saying, don't be afraid. Stand firm.
yes,
I gotcha.
Yep.
And he goes behind them, and he opens the path in front of them. I think that's just
he's doing these things to reveal who he is, and he understands. They've been in Egypt for 430 years.
so good.
Their identity is Egyptian religion.
Yeah.
So sure, we believe in this other God, no problem. But is he more powerful than the Egyptians? And we have we look back on thousands of years of history. We've dissected this every direction.
Yeah.
They are experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah.
They don't know that they can trust Yahweh. They don't know if maybe he's not like the Egyptian gods who's going to bail on them. They don't know. Okay,
No,
yeah,
Baal's
he's
a
got,
different God.
yeah. Oh no, yeah. Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, that was terrible. I love it. So he's literally proving his character, and yeah, we're like, oh, well, they should have known better. Well, but do we? How many times? I mean, we do know better. How many times have we seen the miracles repeatedly and still focus on the problem at hand and not remember what God has done? I mean, literally, every time there's a problem, we go, oh no, this is the worst.
Yeah.
God has done 1,000 things to prove that he can handle it, and yet our human nature is, ooh, this one's worse. This is bad. This is like, ooh, this one's a really tough one. Not for God. So,
Not for God.
Yeah. You talk about God saying for them to remember, and you touched briefly on this, but this chapter 15 is a song.
Yeah.
And the power and the things that we remember in song, and you talked briefly, Chad, about the things that we listen to are what will come out. And gosh, I could sit here for an hour and just share how true that is in my own personal life. But I think it's so cool that what they do afterwards, they sing this song, and why? So that they will remember. And I just wonder. I don't think it's in the rest of Exodus, but I wonder how many times they go back to this. That they just get together and they just sing, and they just remember what Yahweh did for them. And I think of all the songs that we know in our head, and how do we remember what God's done in our lives? And I just think that's really cool. As just a side note for me, as like the worship guy, I'm like, I love music. They sing this song to remember what Yahweh did for them. I just think that's cool.
I think there I want to from a man, how do I say this the right way? From a non-emotional way, not the worship pastor, to say, but we've got to see it so much deeper for what it is. This is God actively rewiring their brains.
Yeah.
Because of everything we just said. They have a whole life that's shaped like this.
Mm-hmm.
They still have the songs of Egypt in their head.
Yeah.
And God says, how do you get the song that never ends out of your head? You sing a different song.
Yeah.
Until it's stuck in there. And so this is what he does. He and then here is how the song is structured. You were this. You had these masters, and it led to death. But God's a warrior. God did this. God delivered you. You have an inheritance. And then he just it's all about rewiring the system by which they think. We didn't have time to get into this, but then it goes on to the reality of the future too. It goes on so there's a fun question in this that I'll let you process for a minute while I finish my thought is, goodness gracious, was this song all written in this very moment, or is some of the song from later on? Because you will see that when we get to verse 14 of chapter 15, that we start talking about future challenges of the Philistines, of Edom, of Moab, of the Canaanites, and they're powerful, and you're going to face them. This generation doesn't, however. Just point there that I'll go to. But the good news is the song doesn't end with destruction. The song ends with them dwelling in a sanctuary. It ends with God reigning forever and ever. Sorry, that was a long ramble, but it's a rewiring of the brain.
It is.
Of how we look at the past, how we look at the present, how we look at the future.
And it's God revealing himself, giving them an identity as his people.
Yeah.
When we talked about the plagues, he says, let my people go. And wait, they're Pharaoh's people. They're Egyptian slaves.
Yeah.
God says, nope, they're my people. And he's rewiring them to understand. And I would argue that that is the journey of Christianity. He's rewiring us to understand I don't own myself. I don't belong to myself. I surrendered myself to God. And he's going to rewire me constantly. And yes, I'm going to face these things. But we have to remember that he is who he is. And that's what I love about the song is, and it's not a great song. Like, we couldn't do that in worship. Yay, people drown, and woo! Like, wait, what? But it is a great song because it's their immediate need.
Yes.
And it literally is the answer. And so I think it's very powerful.
It's funny that you say that. I sent you to last week when I was prepping for the message a playlist of songs based on this passage, and a couple of them are pretty dead on. We aren't going to sing them in worship, I don't think. But then some of them have mellowed in essence to remind us that God is a warrior. But a couple of them I really enjoyed because they were like full on, almost like metal. Death song, and it's but it was worship. It was just recounting the story.
I want to throw something in here that I heard yesterday that I absolutely love. Got this from social media. He was talking to young people, and he just did passing said, "How many scriptures do you have memorized?" And nobody said anything. He said, "How many songs do you have memorized?" And literally, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And he said, you know more song lyrics than you'll ever know scripture. And he was bringing it back to the point of music is important, and what you listen to is important. But I thought, why aren't we celebrating these things more in song instead of the, what secular music we listen to and things like that. So.
Well, and Austin knows, in probably first time saying this kind of in a more public format, one of the things I harp on all the time is that we have to make sure song selection is teaching rich theology, because everybody's walking out of a church service and they memorize the songs we sing. Breaks our hearts, of course, because we put a lot of time into this. They don't remember the sermons we preach.
Yeah.
And so that's why the songs are vitally important in choosing good, rich theology as kind of a hallmark of what we're teaching, because I would argue that our worship is, I need to rephrase my own language there, our musical worship is just as much teaching as a sermon is.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
And
other
there-
people do remember sermons, like parts of them, and
I hope so.
like, well, I just went through 5 in my head of that are very meaningful to me, that are still meaningful to me. So it is meaningful.
But you're weird.
That's true.
We love you though. Well, you mentioned this on Sunday too, and maybe we don't need to go down this rabbit trail, but like, there's worship music that isn't theologically sound. There's hymns that aren't theologically
Oh,
sound.
yeah.
That doesn't make them necessarily bad. Not like versus secular music, but we do want what's going into our minds to be theologically sound. And yeah, like Chad said, we have those conversations a lot. Like, is this okay? Does this make sense? And
Yeah.
then you have weirdos out there that just critique everything just to make everything look bad, which is funny. In my opinion,
It can be.
Just imagine singing this song. This is not a well-written worship song, but this is a true worship song.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
I feel like there is sometimes we get lost in making things rhyme or making things the right, pentameter or whatever the word is. And
Yeah.
we can step away from remembering who Yahweh is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other, by the way, I have to say this now, my other favorite song is when a woman drives a tent spike through a guy's forehead,
Yeah.
drives him into the ground, and then writes a song. And they sing, he was killed with a tent spike, and
Yes.
like, look it up in the Old Testament, folks. You have to
Sing
hunt that
scripture.
one.
It's good
But
stuff.
literally, like,
Yeah.
they were delivered by her act of killing this foreign leader, and then they sang a song about it. I'm like, oh yeah, we don't sing worship songs like that.
No.
We,
I don't know if this is true or not. So conjecture. I think what we think of worship songs and what they thought of worship songs were probably way different.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, again, they weren't seeking an emotion, they were building a memory. And I think that might be an interesting historical thing to figure out. Is like, okay, so when did we switch, and not saying right, wrong, indifferent, I'm saying at what point did worship become more about what we feel than what we're building memory wise? And memory is active, right? We're not just talking about this happened a long time ago. It's like this happened, this applies to me, God will do this again. That's worship. It's all pointing to God, but building something inside of me.
I would say, I don't know when, but I would say it coincides with when we moved worship to focus on us and not on who He is.
Yeah.
Because, man, so much of worship is what God does for me, and we see in songs, God is mine, and I'm like, what, is He?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand the meaning, but I'm like, I'm His.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and we have moved it to us, and what do we get out of it? And how do I tell God, thank you for, which is good, but they're saying, look what God did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we had this real problem, and look what He did, and now there's, actual evidence of it. And
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
We could stay there all day, but I just make a couple of fun observations before I move on. The end of Exodus 15. There's a second song that is from Moses' sister Miriam, and she's called a prophetess. I think this is pretty phenomenal. I have no, this, to the best of my knowledge, you might correct me here, is the first time that a woman is recognized and she's being called a prophetess. And she's given a title before her brother Aaron is given a title. I find that interesting. Do you have any insight or thoughts on that? Is it just a fun thing to mention?
Joe, it's massively important because I think it speaks to that God values women.
Yes.
And for all these people who say, you know, the Bible is misogynistic or against women. No, God from the beginning, he said Eve is the Ezer Kenegdo. Eve is the mirror image. She's the other half of the man. She's the other side of the same coin. Not she was made to be subservient. She is made in the image of God also. Mm-hmm. And then Exodus, he's like, hey, women are important. Let me show you. And so I tend to believe when God repeats an idea through the Bible, we probably should pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And then Judges, he picks Deborah, and he continues this, Rahab, in between. So clearly God is saying, I can use whomever I choose.
Yeah.
So
that's so good.
I love that.
That's so good.
I love that.
You know, the last thing I want to mention, and it's bringing it back around almost to the beginning. I believe there's some powerful imagery here in the Spirit raising the waters, the wind blowing and the water rising, and them walking across on dry land. And I think it is more than echoes of creation back in Genesis. But I do think it is a new creation story in a sense of you're crossing this river, you're going to be a different people. And you're moving towards a garden land, which is, again, hearkening to the image of the Garden of Eden, that this is a place where God's temple is going to be again. This is a place where God's presence is going to dwell. We'll get to that in a few chapters. Any thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. So Genesis is chaos, and God brings order.
Yeah.
The Egyptians, their entire existence is about balancing chaos and order. Ma'at and Isfet. And so literally their entire identity is controlling the chaos. And then God's like, okay, I undo all that. Then I'm going to redo it. And so, yes, there is this order, chaos, and then he brings it to the edge, order, chaos, and then order. And literally he's like, I am the God of all of this. Like, I am the one who will take you from something to something. We are in chaos, and he will bring order. Spiritually speaking, we are lost. He brings order. We live as Christians. We face issues daily, and we feel like it's chaos. And he says, I bring order and bring it all full circle. Then we don't have to fear because he's the God who brings the order out of chaos. And he's the God in the midst of chaos. So I think it's... this is why I love Exodus so much.
I do too, increasingly.
So good.
All right. Anything else? We could keep talking, but I think we should call it for the week. I'm looking forward to this coming Sunday. I don't know how in the heck to do it all. We move into quail and manna. Manna and quail. We have water from a rock. We have a first battle. We have Jethro giving leadership to Moses. We're gonna try to make it from 16 to 18. And I told the guys earlier in the week, I'm like, I don't know how to cover all that ground. But what we don't cover Sunday, we'll cover next Thursday. So, we love you. We will see you. Set your clocks to springtime. Spring forward. Or spring forward. Spring forward. Yeah, spring forward, fall back. And we'll see you Sunday.